This is a dagger brush, sometimes also called a sword brush or a dagger striper. It's a long, tapered brush with a fine tip that holds a lot of water. I first discovered this brush thanks to an account called Pigments and Mood on Instagram. Her name is Vanessa Redford, and she paints these loose, abstract watercolor florals using palette knives and oftentimes dagger brushes that she squishes and flicks against the paper to create these broken up leaf shapes. Apparently they're called pirouette strokes. I was mesmerized. This looked like sorcery in a way that only watercolor can, and I needed to try it. So I bought myself 2 dagger brushes, a small one and a larger one. I tried my hand at some abstract florals, hated it. Of course, I've never enjoyed painting florals no matter which brush I've used. But then I started freehand painting birds with them, and I became obsessed. Freehand watercolor painting means painting directly with watercolor without doing a pencil sketch. It takes a lot of practice and nerve to do it successfully, and it's kind of my ultimate dream for where I want to take my skills in the future. I want to paint like my art heroes, Carl Mortens and Darren Woodhead, none of whom bother with drawing up a sketch. They just jump right in with their watercolor brushes, and thanks to all of their years of experience and intuition, they create art like this. Sorcery, like I said. And these brushes, more than any other kind I've tried, actually do feel a bit like magic wands. They are an absolute thrill to paint with. You never know exactly what's going to happen, but you have just enough control for it to not feel frustrating. What I love most about the dagger brush is its versatility. I can hold it many different ways and get a wide variety of strokes. Almost feels like several brushes in one, and the interesting shape of it encourages experimentation. And it lets me practice what's called brushwork economy, completing a painting with as few brush strokes as possible. It's almost like a little puzzle, figuring out how best to hold the brush in order to achieve a certain shape. What I also love is its volatility. It's not an easy brush to control, especially when it's fully loaded with water, but I really like that. I like a bit of excitement and surprise in my watercolor painting. That's what makes it my favorite medium. And this particular brush is really at its best with a lot of water in it. It feels almost like a brush pen. I can just keep going and going. I can do a whole sketch without reloading it even once, which is a huge perk because the more you reload your brush, the more you risk overwetting your painting or fiddling with your existing brush strokes. Not having to reload as much keeps my brushwork more fresh. I like doing a first sketch with very little pigment in the brush, so I'm not really committing to anything. I can easily correct myself on the fly, and then I can overlay my strokes and drop in some more pigment as it's drying. Not only do I love dagger brushes for freehand painting like I do here, but I've also started using them in my usual paintings as well. The smaller dagger brush especially is great for beaks and wings and feet and delicate feather textures. It really gives my birds more depth, I think, more contrast between loose shapes and sharp details. The brushes I use here are synthetic and were quite affordable, if I remember correctly. Don't ask me where I bought them. I'm from Sweden. I got them from a local art supply store, but just search for synthetic dagger brushes wherever you get your art materials and you'll likely find something just like this. I usually prefer synthetic watercolor brushes over animal hair ones, not just for ethical reasons, but because I like a bit of bounce in my brushes. I like the way synthetic brushes hold their shape, and these brushes might look fluffy when they're dry, but as soon as you dip them in water, they perk up and they get these really sharp tips. And here's the result of my practice session. No masterpieces, of course, but the more I train like this, the closer I get to my regular pencil sketch results. Most importantly, I'm training myself to think on my feet and to improvise and use what the brush gives me. Freehand painted watercolors do have a different look than ones that have been carefully planned and sketched out. At least I think so. I can't really put my finger on why that is, but I can clearly see it in my own work. I will definitely be using these brushes a lot more going forward, both for sketching practice like this and for my regular paintings. Have you ever tried painting with a dagger brush? Do you like it as much as me? I feel like this is probably one of those love it or hate it kinds of brushes. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another one.